live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live tonight. I'm Heidi Hatch, filling in for Brian Schnee, who's off today. It is Thursday, April 27th. We're going in depth tonight on a few topics, including the collapsed homes in Draper and also the connections between builders and lawmakers, plus home prices and the changes that experts think are coming down the pipe. Also, the very latest in the Lori Vallow day bail trial in Idaho. Before we dive in, though, here's a look at what is making headlines tonight. First up, looking at today's headlines, we're learning more about a 13-year-old girl police say was shot and killed by her brother. The brother has been booked into the Salt Lake County Juvenile Detention Center on a single count of murder. Also, a Utah driver home safe tonight after her car went off an embankment in Salt Lake City. The single car crash happening shortly before noon. It happened on City Creek Canyon Road. First responders say the car left the road and crashed into the trees. Well, the House of Representatives passing its bill to raise the debt ceiling by just 2 votes. 4 Republicans joining with the Democrats to vote no. Due to the spending cuts the plan contains, it's unlikely to become law. And former Cincinnati mayor and longtime TV host Jerry Springer has died at the age of 79. Springer's tabloid talk show was famous for outrageous arguments and physical fights between guests that included thrown chairs. Can't forget about that. And as we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join the conversation. You can always find on Facebook as well, Twitter and Instagram. Send me a direct message to weigh in. You've got all the information from Brian Schnee there. If you want to find me, TV Heidi Hatch is where you go. Well, city and state leaders seem at odds over vetting the housing project where 2 homes collapsed. Draper saying its hands tied in the situation. The state says not entirely. Brian Malahy live back in the neighborhood tonight where the homes are gone. And Brian, what's the new wrinkle in all of the fallout right now? Because it seems like everyone's pointing fingers at the other person or the other leader.
So the mayor of Draper just yesterday said once this development was submitted for approval by the city and it had an engineering study that said that the development would be safe, then the city's hands were tied, that it had to approve the project under its local ordinance. So we know what happened behind me, right? We had 2 houses that collapsed on the weekend, fell into the ravine, saturated conditions out here. One of the homes was completely destroyed on Saturday. The other one was partially still standing, and just yesterday they knocked it down. The state ombudsman, the property rights ombudsman for the state, it's a state agency that deals with private property rights. He said today that no, there is nothing in state code that prevents cities from doing their own engineering plans. And then the cities presumably could share those engineering plans with the developer or even compare them side by side. Hey, this plan says one thing, this plan says another. Here perhaps is a recommendation that could be used that wasn't in this plan. Maybe a different style of and a different structural stability in this project. So that those seem to be at odds with one another. You know, the mayor says our hands are tied and we can't do anything about it, and the state says no, not exactly. You could have had your own plan. That's the new wrinkle today.
A lot of finger pointing for sure, Brian, and I think a lot of us here in Utah know there's only so many places you can build these days. And a lot of people want to build on some of those cliff sides or mountains. It's beautiful up against the ranges there, but is there personal responsibility? People are talking about thinking before you go and buy a house that you maybe need to ask some questions or do your own due diligence?
Well, you know, and that is done in just about every residential transaction, right? That there is an inspection unless the buyer decides to waive it. There is an inspection. You can do a series of other tests about that. You can have a structural engineer check out your place, and presumably that's what owners of these individual homes could have done here. But, you know, structural engineering reports are not cheap. And, you know, some people raised the question today, well, what about, you know, the city paying for it and taxpayers ultimately would have to pay for it? Why not just take the developer's report and review it and make sure that, you know, that it's built according to plan? So, yes, the short answer, I think, is yes. You can do all this stuff, but housing prices are high. It's expensive to buy a house. And now you're going to add one more layer on top of it. when the margins perhaps may be so small. I mean, that's something that, you know, individuals may have to grapple with. One other thing that I think, though, is important that was told to us today by an ex-legislator who is now a lobbyist, and he lobbies on behalf of another city. He says, look, you know, people assume when they're buying into a new housing project that the city has given a permit for it. You know, it has an occupancy permit. There's curb and gutter. There are all kinds of things that the city has required. But he said, the city is not going in and doing a lot of eyes-on inspection. It is really relying on the reports of the developer and reviewing those reports and having the developer attest that those reports and the construction is being done in accordance with the plan. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, if you think the city's really doing a lot of this work, according to him, it really isn't.
Nerve-wracking to think about. Everyone lives somewhere, so you have to ask these questions, and hopefully we'll learn from this and mistakes won't be made again. But very difficult situation. Brian Leahy live for us tonight. Thank you. We've been in this specific Draper neighborhood since the collapse happened last weekend. We posted several photo galleries and interviews online. You can find all of those right now at KUTV.com or by downloading the 2 News mobile app. With 80 degrees forecasted for the very near future, flooding concerns are on everybody's minds. We talked with Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall today about how they're preparing.
And mostly we've been monitoring the creeks and the streams 24 hours a day, working with our county partners, obviously with our public utilities, but also our parks teams. And they are out there around the clock. They're using technology to monitor stream flow so that we can see a blockage or monitor a blockage as soon as it happens.
Now, Mayor Mendenhall says they have been clearing debris and also monitoring conditions. You'll likely see high water flowers in Tanner Park, Sugar House Park, and Hidden Hollow. If you see flooding in your area, those flows are going to be happening. You can call Salt Lake City Public Utilities. Parents are encouraged to keep their kids and pets away from fast-moving streams. I know earlier today there was a scare up in Ogden on the river there, so be very careful and mindful. Meanwhile, Salt Lake County inviting people to come out to their flood control shed and fill up sandbags. This is happening tomorrow, noon until 4 in the afternoon. The county says more sandbag filling will happen again on Saturday afternoon. Great weather to get out there. Everyone asked to bring their own shovel and also gloves to put the work in. And also, I think we've all been waiting thinking, okay, we don't want to warm up too quickly, but at some point we do have to warm up. School's out in 4 weeks, so the warm up has to happen at some point.
Yeah, hard to believe. You know, the last 7-10 days, Heidi, we've been below normal. Lots of 40s, 50s, and 60s, and now we're starting to see that spring weather. So we are getting that spring runoff right now. I know I just took my dog to Sugar House Park. This is the Weber River, but Sugar House Park, a lot of water out there, but it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Is kind of like its own little mini reservoir as the waters come down Parleys.
Yeah, and I see people posting about it and concerned, and they're saying that Sugar House is flooding, but the good news is
that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, we build these parks. They look like good sledding hills, but they're there for a reason so that we can hold and capture the water. And it's not just in Sugar House, but other areas across the valley that if they need a fill. So
and the water's cold. You know, that's a good reminder for kids and pets. It's cold. It's moving very fast. It's going to be very scary going over the next couple weeks that you really want to just avoid. We're all human. We think it's really visually stunning, but again, you got to be careful and just look at the water from afar.
Yes, you do not need an Instagram picture on the edge, so stay away from that for sure. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it. The road leading up Little Cottonwood Canyon is open right now, but with temperatures warming up and the snow melting, UDOT says prolonged closures are possible during the next few weeks, so be ready. They want all of us who are planning to head up or down the canyon to be ready just in case that happens. And ski resorts are still open. The skiing's happening. There's a lot of people who want to get out and hike too, but I think the hiking is going to be tricky to get to because a lot of those lower levels where the trails are open, they're not right now.
They're not. And the mid and high level snowpack hasn't really even melted yet. And here is what I want to show you. About 20 days ago, our snowpack was at 30 inches. That's how much water's in the snowpack. Right now, we're at 26.4 inches. So we've only melted 12%.
Just a skosh.
Just a little bit of our snowpack. This number is still above our 1983 number. So we really haven't melted a whole lot of snow quite yet. And now with the warmer weather that I'm forecasting, this number is going to be dropping. Those rivers and streams, they're going to be rising. So let's get right to your forecast. Here's what you need to know. Right around the corner is the warmest weather of the year so far, with potentially several days at or above 80 degrees here in the lower valleys. Of course, it's not going to be 80 degrees in the mountains, subtract 10 to 20 degrees, but that's going to really start to melt some of that snowpack that really hasn't melted yet. Significant rises at all those rivers, creeks, streams. They're going to be dangerous. It's going to be cold as well. There's even a chance for some localized flooding. So we're watching these rivers very closely as they approach flood stage potentially by early next week. Right now, though, it is pleasant, 60s and 70s up and down the Wasatch Front. A few high clouds have moved in. There's actually a weak storm that's going to be kind of just clipping northern Utah overnight, mainly bringing in some wind. But our friends in southwestern Wyoming, especially towards Rock Springs, a little bit of rain and snow for you. As this front zips on by, we will see a chance for those isolated showers maybe making its way into the Uinta Basin. The Wasatch Front dry but windy. We're already seeing those winds increase, but with that colder air to our east, we get that colder air funneled through some of our canyons. East winds are possible. Nothing that's going to cause any damage, but you're going to hear the wind, especially by about 10 o'clock tonight. 30 to 40 miles per hour, Salt Lake County north, and then those winds will likely peak overnight in Davis County, Farmington, and Centerville, areas prone to those east winds. If you have outdoor furniture like those patio umbrellas, make sure they're down and secure. But by tomorrow morning, those winds will be breezy, but then lighter by the afternoon. Tonight, dropping into the 30s and 40s for many spots in northern and central Utah. Tonight in St. George at 55 degrees. Will be 84 tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies. It's going to be a nice day. Because of that weak cold front tonight, we'll drop just a couple degrees tomorrow. Mid and upper 60s for the Wasatch Front, Park City at 55, and Vernal, you're at 58 degrees. Speaking of Vernal, by about 10 o'clock, that's when you might see an isolated shower. A little bit of light snow over the high Uintas. Most of the rain and snow should fall apart by the time that front makes its way towards Moab. But here we are tomorrow afternoon. Lots of sunshine out there. High pressure settles in and we start that warm up. It really starts on Saturday and we really feel it on Sunday as we climb maybe into the mid 80s here in northern Utah. St. George, you're going to be in the 90s, 91 on Saturday, 94 degrees on Sunday. That's when you peak. And then we do have a lot of wind moving in across the state and temperatures dropping a couple degrees Tuesday and Wednesday into the 80s in southern Utah. Salt Lake, 68 tomorrow. That's still above normal. Well above normal on Saturday, 78, 85 on Sunday, 86 on Monday. We will be flirting with record highs. So if we're concerned about that snow melt, it could be quite rapid early next week, kind of delayed. It takes a while for the water to come down those canyons. But by maybe the end of the week, we could see slightly cooler weather and a chance for a few showers and storms.
As a spring sport parent, I'm excited for these temperatures.
You have been in the rain and snow all year long.
So I think we're ready for this, but definitely warm. And this is funny. Today I was out walking with my Shih Tzu, and it's been such a long, cold winter that he just, today at like 50 some odd degrees, it was too hot for him. He wanted to lay in the shade and take a break.
100%.
Yeah, so this is going to be toasty. So get prepared, hydrate yourselves, because 85 is going to feel like 100.
And hydrate your dogs, because they're not used to the 80s right now. It takes a while for them to get used to that.
I know, we're all going to have to buckle up and be ready. All right, Chase, we're going to watch that carefully. Remember to download the 2 News weather app to know about those changes in your neighborhood. Get updated forecasts, live radar right on your phone. The app is free and super easy to download. Well, after months of falling housing prices all along the Wasatch Front, new data is suggesting those days, they're coming to an end. Daniel Woodruff is here tonight to show us about those numbers and see exactly where we're heading. So I guess if you're selling, this is good news. If you're trying to buy for the first time, probably not great news. So what are you hearing right now and seeing?
Yeah, Heidi, kind of goes back and forth and back and forth. So what we're seeing with these brand new housing numbers is that prices along the Wasatch Front are lower than they were back from their peak last May. But analysts and experts who follow this believe that those prices are creeping back upward now as there is low inventory in the market comparably. And also, the market really has adjusted to the interest rates and where they're at. So I talked to Dayon Eskich at the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. He told me that this is an indication that that supply of housing just is not enough, that there's so much demand for housing that we're starting to see those numbers where they had been falling now month after month after month. They're getting back up there. Again, they are not as high as they once were. The peak happened last year, but they're certainly getting back up there, Heidi, and we'll see where they go during this spring buying season.
And really wild to think that we still don't have enough, because if you drive anywhere along the Wasatch Front down a street you haven't been for a while, it seems like there's new condos, there's new townhomes, there's new apartment buildings. They're going up everywhere, but even with all of that happening, they say we still don't have enough.
Yeah, the latest number from the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute, which tracks this pretty closely, was 31,000 units short in Utah. That number they believed would actually get worse because building has slowed down after those mortgage rates rose and the demand was kind of stifled. And so I expect we'll get an updated number this year. But yes, the short answer is Utah does have a housing shortage. People need places to live, and that's why prices have been so high generally over the last few years. It's why also rental prices have gone up so much.
We're all feeling it, and I think a lot of people watching this one closely. Daniel, thank you. We want to hear from you at home tonight. How would you describe your plans in the housing market throughout the summer months? You can open up that phone right now, scan the QR code on your screen to weigh in. Don't even have to get off the couch to do it. Right now, the majority of you say you are waiting out, but a fourth, 25% say they're ready to buy. 6% though, as you see those selling. So when you see the difference between those numbers, you see that problem we have that Daniel was discussing, not enough homes. In other news today, taking the stand today in the Lori Daybell murder trial, experts from the FBI and Idaho State Police Crime Lab. Also, Tammy Daybell's sister on the stand today. Angela Kerndale with our sister station in Boise, Idaho, has the very latest from the Ada County Courthouse.
Yeah, things moved quickly today with 8 witnesses taking the stand. Much of today's testimony centered around trauma to Tylee's bone and fingerprints. One of the biggest revelations involving J.J. Vallow came from a forensic scientist with Idaho State Police, Tara Martinez. She focused on latent fingerprints. Those are fingerprints left behind that you can't see with the naked eye. Today we learned Lori's brother Alex Cox's latent fingerprint and palm print were found on plastic wrapped around JJ's body. Several other forensic experts testified, starting with forensic anthropologist Angie Christensen. She continued yesterday's testimony by describing the condition of Tylee Ryan's bones. She said some of the traumas appeared inconsistent in what's typical in dismemberment cases. She said dismemberment is typically done by cutting at the joints. Douglas Halapaska also took the stand. He's a forensic examiner in the Firearms and Tool Marks Unit with the FBI. During his testimony, using photos, he outlined areas of Tylee's hip bone that had damage due to stabbing and chopping type actions. He could not identify the exact tools used, but said they could have come from bladed tools such as a cleaver, machete, hatchet, something with serrated teeth, or a knife. And a forensic biologist with ISP, Catherine Dace, also testified. She looked for blood and potential human remains on tools taken from Chad Daybell's property. Dace said several tools had presumptive blood stains on them. A shovel had Tylee's DNA profile on it, and a pickaxe had a partial DNA profile on it, also belonging to Tylee. And the last person to take the stand today was Samantha Gawilliam, Tammy Daybell's sister and Chad Daybell's sister-in-law. Her voice breaking up as she identified Tammy in a photo. Samantha said she and Tammy were close. The morning Tammy died, Chad told her that Tammy had been really sick and coughing through the night. He told her in the morning Tammy rolled out of bed dead. Samantha said this didn't make sense to her because when she saw her sister 2 weeks before that, she was perfectly healthy. Samantha also describes a few instances where Chad and Tammy's relationship seemed really strange and off. For Samantha's birthday in July of 2019, Tammy came in, drove all the way from Idaho, came in, dropped off a present and stayed for just 5 minutes while Chad stayed in the car. She said it was really weird and they showed up unannounced. She's expected to return to the stand tomorrow morning, and court is going to be wrapping up tomorrow earlier at 1:30 in the afternoon. Reporting live in Boise, Angela Kerndale, CBS 2 News.
Difficult for these jury members having to listen to this for nearly 2 months. Heavy testimony. You can listen to the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell every day. We post it on KUTV.com. The judge has bar cameras from the courtroom. That's why you see those sketches. Audio is recorded daily. Once it's released, we post it online for you on KUTV.com or also on our KUTV YouTube page. We do want to take a look at what's trending on our website tonight, KUTV.com, and this trial we've been discussing for days now has been the #1 thing that people are wanting to see what is going on. You can see that the #1 story right now. A lot of people talking about a little good news here in New Orleans. Teen, a senior in high school, breaking the U.S. record with 170 college offers, $9 million in scholarships. My question is how much time he spent filling out all the forms and paying the fee to do that at every single school there. So that's a lot. American Fork couple sadly losing their home after 4 decades in an explosion. Right now they're thinking it possibly could have started in their chicken coop. So definitely something you want to pay attention to if you have one at your home as well. Also, people clicking to see more information about this high-speed pursuit that started in Utah County, ended in a crash on I-15 a couple nights ago in Salt Lake County. And also some very sad news. A girl, 13 years old, killed in a shooting. Her brother now in the juvenile detention center, accused of killing her this week again. Remember all these stories on our KUTV mobile app, which you can download. You can do that on the Apple App Store or Google Play. Either one works. The information is easy to download and easy for you there as well. We are here Monday through Friday, live at 5:30. We thank you so much for being with us. I'm starting to feel that allergy season in the air right now.
Oh, things are starting to grow right now. I look at your lawn, it's starting to grow. It's allergy season. It's spring in Utah. All those tree blooms. We'll talk more about those tree allergens later on 2 News this evening. But here we go with the warmer weather. That's what we deal with here in Utah.
We're here and ready to go. Yep. Chase, for staying alert during this. He's back from Europe and fresh back at work. Glad to have you back.
Little jet lag just a bit, but you know what? Tomorrow's going to be better, I think.
For sure, you need a vacation from your vacation always. Thanks for being with us. Coming up next, 2 News at 6 o'clock. Have a great night.